Olivia Marsh checked her phone for the third time in 5 minutes, contemplating a swift exit from the upscale restaurant. Her best friend had insisted this blind date would be different, but Olivia had heard that promise before. The crystal. Chandeliers above cast dancing shadows across white tablecloths, and every polished surface seemed to mock her scuffed leather bag and clearance rack dress. "Ms. Marsh?" A voice interrupted her escape planning. She looked up into striking green, eyes that belonged to a man who could have stepped from a magazine cover. Tailored navy suit, perfectly tousled dark hair, and a smile that seemed almost apologetic. "Julian," he said, extending his hand. "I apologize for being late. Traffic was impossible." Olivia shook his hand, noting the firm but gentle grip. "It's fine. I was just about to order wine and drink away my expectations." His laugh was genuine, catching her off guard. "Mind if I join you in that strategy?" As they settled into conversation, Olivia found herself relaxing despite her reservations. Julian asked about her art gallery with genuine interest, not the glazed politeness she usually encountered. He listened as she described the struggling space in Brooklyn, how she championed emerging artists who reminded her why she'd fallen in love with art in the first place. "It sounds like you're fighting an uphill battle," Julian observed, swirling his wine. "Every day," Olivia admitted. "But someone has to give new voices a chance. The commercial galleries want safe investments, not raw talent." "That's admirable." Something flickered in his expression, a calculation she couldn't quite read. The evening flowed surprisingly well through appetizers and main courses. Julian proved witty without being arrogant, successful without flaunting it. He mentioned working in technology, but deflected details, seeming more interested in her stories about chaotic gallery openings and eccentric artists. It was during dessert that the conversation took an unexpected turn. "Olivia, I need to be honest with you about something." Julian set down his fork, his casual demeanor shifting. This dinner wasn't entirely coincidental. Her stomach tightened. "What do you mean?" "I've been looking for someone like you. Someone genuine, intelligent, and absolutely not part of my usual social circle." He paused, choosing his words carefully. "I have an unusual proposition." Olivia's defenses snapped into place. "If this is some kind of Pretty Woman scenario, you can settle the check and leave." "No, nothing like that." Julian leaned forward. "My grandmother is Veronica Sterling. Perhaps you've heard of her?" The name rang distant bells. Old money, philanthropy, society pages. "Vaguely. She's been pressuring me to settle down for years. Recently, she issued an ultimatum. If I don't introduce her to someone I'm seriously dating within 2 months, she'll restructure her will to favor my cousin, who will absolutely run the family foundation into the ground. And this concerns me how? I need someone to pretend to be my girlfriend. Someone she can't Google and find a society pedigree for. Someone real who won't be impressed by the Sterling name." Julian met her eyes directly. "Someone like you." Olivia stared at him, processing this absurd request. "You want me to lie to your grandmother?" "I want you to attend a few family dinners, maybe a charity gala. In return, I'll provide funding for your gallery, enough to cover your lease for 2 years and support your artists properly." "That's insane." "That's desperate," Julian corrected. "Look, I know how this sounds. But Veronica means well. She just doesn't understand that building a company from nothing doesn't leave time for conventional relationships. And honestly, every woman I've met in my social circle wants either my money or the status of being with me. And I'm supposed to be different because I'm broke?" Olivia's voice sharpened. "You're different because 5 minutes into this dinner, you were ready to bolt. You're here out of friendship, not ambition. That's exactly what I need." Olivia should have walked away. Every rational instinct screamed at her to leave this bizarre proposal at the table, but she thought about her brother Thomas, drowning in medical school debt. She thought about the eviction notice sitting on her gallery desk. She thought about the 3 talented artists whose work deserved to be seen. How long would this arrangement last? 6 months, maybe less. Long enough to satisfy Veronica that I'm capable of a committed relationship. Then we have a mutual, amicable breakup. And the money? Transferred to your gallery account before the first family dinner. Non-refundable, regardless of how things play out. Olivia picked up her water glass, buying time to think. The offer was ridiculous, potentially disastrous, and completely contrary to her principles about honesty. It was also a lifeline. I have conditions, she heard herself say. No pretending in private. This is purely professional when we're alone, and I maintain complete control over my gallery decisions. The funding comes with no strings. Agreed. And if your grandmother discovers the truth, I'm out immediately. I won't be part of deceiving a sick old woman. She's actually in perfect health and sharper than both of us combined, Julian said with a slight smile. But yes, if things go wrong, you walk away with the money already received. They sat in silence for a moment, the weight of the agreement settling between them like a third presence at the table. When do I meet Veronica? Olivia finally asked. Sunday dinner. I'll send a car for you at 5. As they left the restaurant, Olivia couldn't shake the feeling that she'd just agreed to something far more complicated than a simple business arrangement. Julian's hand rested briefly on her back as he held the door, and she noticed he wore no cologne, just clean soap and something woodsy. Olivia, he said as they reached the street, thank you. You're saving something that matters more than you know. She nodded, already composing the explanation she'd give her brother about the sudden gallery funding. As Julian's car pulled away, she realized she hadn't asked the most important question. What happened to the real relationships in his life that made a fake one seem like the better option? The Sterling mansion loomed like something from another century, all stone columns and manicured hedges that probably had their own gardening staff. Olivia smoothed her borrowed dress, a deep emerald number her friend had insisted was family, dinner appropriate, and rang the doorbell. Julian answered immediately, relief flooding his features. You came. I took your money. I honor my commitments. Right. Business. Something flickered in his expression before he masked it. Veronica is in the sitting room. Fair warning, she has the interrogation skills of a federal prosecutor. Veronica. Sterling was petite, silver-haired, and radiated the kind of authority that came from decades of commanding rooms full of powerful people. She studied Olivia with eyes that missed nothing. So you're the gallery owner who's captured my grandson's attention. Veronica's voice carried aristocratic precision. Sit. Tell me how you met. Olivia had rehearsed this. Through mutual friends, Julian wandered into my gallery during an opening, and we started talking about the intersection of technology and art. Veronica sipped her tea. And what do you make of my grandson? The question caught her off guard with its directness. Olivia glanced at Julian, who watched her with unexpected intensity. He's more thoughtful than he pretends to be, Olivia said honestly. And lonelier. Veronica's eyebrows rose slightly. Perceptive. Julian, you didn't mention she was perceptive. Dinner proceeded with Veronica's pointed questions interspersed with stories about Julian's childhood. Olivia found herself genuinely enjoying the evening, watching Julian relax around, his grandmother in ways he hadn't at their first meeting. He became animated discussing a new education initiative his company was funding, his passion evident. You actually care about this work, Olivia said as they walked through the garden after dinner. Does that surprise you? Everything about you surprises me. She stopped by a fountain, moonlight catching the water. I expected someone more shallow, I suppose, more interested in the money than the impact. Is that better or worse for our arrangement? I haven't decided yet. Julian moved closer, close enough that she could see gold flecks in his green eyes. Olivia, I should tell you something. Veronica is throwing a gala next month. All of society. We'll be there, and she'll want us to attend together. That wasn't part of the deal. I know. But I'm asking anyway. His voice softened. And maybe it doesn't have to be pretend for the whole evening. Before Olivia could respond, the garden gate opened and a woman in a designer dress strode toward them. She was beautiful in a calculated way, blonde hair perfect despite the evening breeze, her expression mixing surprise and something sharper. Julian. The woman's voice could freeze champagne. Veronica mentioned you'd be here. She didn't mention you'd bring a guest. Julian's whole posture changed, tension radiating from him. Natalie, I thought you were in Paris. I came back early. Natalie's gaze swept over Olivia with dismissive assessment. And you are? Olivia Marsh, Julian's girlfriend. How fascinating. Natalie's smile didn't reach her eyes. Julian and I were engaged last year. Did he mention that? The information landed like a physical blow. Olivia kept her expression neutral, but inside, questions multiplied. Julian had conveniently omitted this detail. We should go, Julian said, his hand finding Olivia's back. Grandmother will wonder where we've gone. Running away again? Natalie called after them. Some things never change, Julian. In the car ride back to Brooklyn, silence stretched between them like a chasm. You didn't tell me about Natalie, Olivia finally said. It didn't seem relevant. You were engaged to her. That feels relevant to our arrangement. Julian stared out. The window. Natalie wanted the Sterling name and the foundation access. When she realized I wouldn't let her turn the foundation into her personal social project, she left. 3 weeks before the wedding. I'm sorry. Don't be. I'm not. But his voice carried an edge of old pain. She's the reason I needed someone genuine. Someone who wouldn't see me as a means to an end. Olivia's phone buzzed with a text from her, Brother Thomas. Gallery payment cleared. You're a miracle worker. How did you manage this? She'd told him a donor came through, not mentioning Julian or the arrangement. Thomas was at the hospital for another overnight shift, pushing himself through his residency while drowning in debt. The money would help him too, she'd decided, siphoning some to quietly pay down his loans. Thank you, she said to Julian, for the funding. It's already making a difference. That's the point. Something in his tone made her look closer. He seemed smaller somehow, the confident billionaire facade cracked by Natalie's appearance. On impulse, Olivia reached over and squeezed his hand. For what it's worth, she was wrong to leave. Julian's fingers tightened around hers. This was supposed to be simple, a business transaction. I know, but it's not feeling simple anymore. Olivia didn't answer because she felt it too, the way her heart had jumped when he'd smiled at something she said during dinner. How natural it felt to stand beside him in the garden. The unexpected ache when Natalie had appeared with her history and claims this was dangerous territory. She was playing a role, nothing more. The money was real, but everything else was performance. Except it was starting to feel less like acting and more like revealing something that shouldn't exist. Julian, she started, but he cut her off. There, gala is in 3 weeks. I'll have something appropriate sent to your apartment. His voice had returned to business mode. We should probably be seen in public a few times before then. Dinner tomorrow? I have an artist meeting. Thursday, then. Fine. The car stopped outside her building, a converted warehouse that had seen better decades. Julian looked at the graffitied entrance, the flickering streetlight, and something passed across his face. You could afford better now. This is my neighborhood. These are my people. Olivia opened the door. Not everyone wants to escape where they came from. She climbed out before he could respond, but his words followed her. Maybe I don't want to escape. Maybe I just want to find somewhere I actually belong. Olivia lay awake that night, thinking about green eyes and careful words and the way her hand had felt in his. This arrangement had a time limit, she reminded herself. In 6 months, maybe less, they'd stage a breakup and return to their separate worlds. The problem was, her world was already starting to feel incomplete without him in it. The gala was everything Olivia had feared. Crystal everything, designer gowns that cost more than her annual rent and enough diamonds to fund a small country. She wore a midnight blue dress Julian had sent, the fabric feeling like liquid starlight against her skin. He'd included a note. "You'll outshine everyone there." Julian materialized at her elbow, devastating in a tuxedo. "Ready? To face the wolves?" Absolutely not. His laugh eased some of her tension. They'd fallen into a rhythm over the past 3 weeks, dinners that felt less like obligations and more like discoveries. He'd visited her gallery, genuinely engaging with her artists. She'd sat through his board presentation, understanding for the first time the weight of decisions affecting thousands of employees. Veronica held court in the center of the ballroom, her sharp eyes tracking their entrance. She beckoned them over, with an imperious wave. "Olivia, you look lovely. Julian, stop hovering and get us champagne." Once Julian departed, Veronica fixed Olivia with a penetrating stare. "I'm going to ask you something, and I want the truth. Do you love my grandson?" Olivia's prepared deflections crumbled. "I don't know." Interesting answer. Veronica's expression softened slightly. "Most women would lie and say yes. You're either very honest or very foolish." "Probably both. He's different around you, less guarded. That's worth more than you know." Veronica leaned closer. "Richard, my late husband, left instructions in his will. Specific instructions about Julian." Before Veronica could continue, Natalie appeared, with an older man in tow. "Veronica, I brought someone who's been dying to see Julian again. His cousin, Preston Sterling." Preston had the Sterling features, but none of Julian's warmth. His smile was calculated, his handshake too firm. "Cousin Jules? Still playing at philanthropy? Still managing hedge funds that profit from human misery?" Julian shot back, returning with champagne. The tension crackled visibly. Preston turned to Olivia with false charm. "And this must be the gallery girl. How quaint that Julian is slumming in Brooklyn." "Careful, Preston." Julian's voice went cold. "You're talking about the woman I love." The words hung in the air, shocking. Everyone, especially Olivia. Julian looked equally surprised by his own declaration, but he didn't retract it. Natalie's laugh was brittle. "How touching. Julian, always the romantic, until reality intrudes." "Reality is, I made a mistake with you," Julian said quietly. "One I don't intend to repeat." Preston's expression darkened. "Grandmother, surely you see through this charade. He's using her to secure the foundation inheritance." "That's enough." Veronica's voice cut through the murmurs. "Grace, bring the documents." A woman Olivia hadn't noticed stepped forward, professional, in a gray suit, carrying a leather portfolio. Grace Chen, the Sterling family lawyer, radiated quiet authority. "Mrs. Sterling, are you certain about this timing?" Grace asked. "Completely." Grace opened the portfolio, revealing legal documents. Richard Sterling's will contained specific provisions regarding the family foundation. The inheritance wasn't contingent on Julian marrying or being in a relationship. Preston relaxed slightly, but Grace continued. The actual clause stated that foundation control would go to whichever Sterling heir demonstrated genuine understanding of love, sacrifice, and partnership by age 35. Richard believed those qualities were essential for guiding the foundation's charitable work. "I don't understand," Julian said. Veronica smiled, the first truly warm expression Olivia had seen from her. "Richard never cared about conventional marriage, Julian. He cared about character. He left me instructions to observe you, to see how you handled pressure and relationships." "You knew about our arrangement?" Olivia felt her face flush. From the beginning. Your friend who set up the blind date? She consults for one of our charities. I asked her to make the introduction. The ballroom seemed to tilt. Olivia gripped Julian's arm for balance. This was all orchestrated? The meeting was orchestrated, Veronica corrected. Everything that followed was entirely real. Richard wanted to see if Julian could find genuine connection when he thought no one was watching. If he would treat a partner with respect, even in a business arrangement. Julian looked shell-shocked. Why? Because Richard saw how the Sterling name corrupted relationships. He wanted to ensure the foundation stayed in hands that understood real human connection, not transactional exchanges. Veronica gestured to the documents. Julian, you've proven yourself in ways Preston never could. The foundation is yours, unconditionally. Preston's face reddened. This is absurd. He admitted their relationship was fake. It started that way, Grace interjected, consulting her notes. But Mr. Sterling used the funding exactly as promised, with no attempts at control. He attended Ms. Marsh's gallery events without publicity. He supported her brother's medical expenses without her knowledge. His actions demonstrated the partnership values Mr. Richard Sterling prized. Olivia turned to Julian. You paid Thomas's loans? He's your brother. He was struggling. Julian looked uncomfortable. It wasn't about the arrangement. None of this makes sense. Olivia's mind raced through every interaction, questioning what had been real and what had been performance. I need air. She fled the ballroom, heels clicking on marble as she found a balcony overlooking the city. Lights sprawled below, millions of lives uncomplicated by billionaire machinations and dead men's tests. Julian found her minutes later. I didn't know. I swear I had no idea about Richard's plan. But you used me anyway. Yes. He didn't try to deny it. I thought I was being clever, finding a solution that helped us both. Instead, I was following a script my grandfather wrote 5 years ago. Except he wasn't testing whether you could fake a relationship. Olivia turned to face him. He was testing whether you could recognize a real one. Julian moved closer, the city lights casting shadows across his face. What I said in there, about loving you, I meant it. I don't know when it stopped being pretend, but it did. How am I supposed to trust that? Any of this? Because I'm terrified, right now. His voice cracked slightly. Because I'm standing here knowing I could lose you and it's the only thing that matters. Not the foundation. Not Veronica's approval. You. Olivia wanted to believe him. Every moment of the past weeks flooded back. The small kindnesses and genuine laughter, and the way he looked at her like she was the only person in the room. Your grandfather sounds like he was manipulative. He was also brilliant and kind and taught me everything about using wealth responsibly. Julian's smile was sad. He would have liked you. The real you, not the version you pretend to be for. Survival. I'm scared, Olivia admitted. This wasn't supposed to be real. The best things never are. He reached for her hand, and this time when their fingers intertwined, it felt like a choice rather than a charade. Music drifted from the ballroom, some classical piece Olivia didn't recognize. Dance with me, Julian said. No audience, no performance, just us. They swayed together on the empty balcony, the city their only witness. Olivia rested her head against his chest, hearing his heartbeat beneath expensive fabric. What happens now? She whispered. I don't know. We figure it out together? That's a terrible plan. Do you have a better one? She didn't. But as Julian pulled her closer and the night wrapped around them, Olivia realized that maybe the best plans were the ones you didn't make, the ones that found you when you weren't looking, disguised as business arrangements and orchestrated encounters. Inside the gala, Veronica watched through the windows with Grace at her side. Richard would have approved. Grace observed. He knew what he was doing. Julian needed someone who saw him, not the Sterling legacy. Veronica's expression turned thoughtful. Though I admit, I wasn't certain until tonight. Love is remarkably difficult to fake convincingly. What about Preston? Preston will manage one of the Foundation's subsidiaries. Supervised closely. Veronica turned from the window. Richard's final gift wasn't the inheritance. It was teaching Julian that the most valuable things can't be bought or arranged. They have to be earned. 3 months later, Olivia's gallery hosted its most successful exhibition yet. Julian stood beside her, no longer her fake boyfriend, but something more complicated and infinitely more real. Thomas had finished his residency, debt-free and grateful. Veronica had become an unexpected friend, sharp-tongued but fiercely supportive. The arrangement that started over dinner had evolved into something neither had anticipated. Not perfect, not simple, but genuine in ways that mattered. "Still think this was a terrible idea?" Julian asked, watching visitors admire a particularly striking sculpture. "The worst," Olivia said, lacing her fingers through his. "And the best, somehow both." He kissed her temple, a gesture so natural it felt like they'd done it 1,000 times. "Richard's will had one more clause Grace told me about yesterday." "Oh?" "If I successfully found real partnership, the Foundation would fund a new program, supporting emerging artists." "Seems he anticipated you." Olivia laughed, the sound echoing through her gallery that no longer felt like a constant struggle, but a growing dream. "Your grandfather was terrifyingly perceptive." He was. And he was. Right. Julian pulled her close as a new group of visitors entered, their lives continuing around them in beautiful, messy reality. The inheritance that mattered wasn't money or foundations. It was learning that some things can't be planned. Outside, the city hummed with endless possibilities, and two people who'd started with a lie had somehow found their way to truth, not through grand gestures or perfect moments, but through showing up, being honest when it counted, and choosing each other again and again. The arrangement had ended months ago. What remained was infinitely more valuable and far more complicated. It was simply, imperfectly, wonderfully real.